WWE Backlash is taking place this Saturday from San Juan, Puerto Rico. The first time in over 18 years a WWE premium live event will be in Puerto Rico. The last time being in 2005 for New Year's Revolution. So you know it's going to be a packed house. It's going to be a passionate crowd. And of course, there'll be 7 matches to go through as well. Looking forward to getting your predictions as well. Get involved in the comments as we go through the stream. But before we start, here is the match card for this Saturday. So that's what we're discussing here today. Going to get my guest on once again. He's joining for 2 days in a row. It must be a busy time of the calendar year with the WWE draft and, of course, a premium live event in the same week. NXSteve, are you feeling fatigued?
It's getting to that point at the minute with WWE. There's so much going on. But yeah, no, it's, to be fair, at least it's something exciting to get watching. Do you know what I mean? Build a hype for.
Absolutely, indeed. There, I mean, to be fair, we've got a premium live event. Obviously, the draft doesn't take shape until next week. Of course, we did all our draft reaction yesterday. For those that want to go and check that video out, there's plenty of those draft videos on this channel as well. But NXSteve, Backlash is the name of the game here. We've got 7 matches. What's your initial thoughts of this show? What's your excitement levels between 1 and 10?
It's hard to get really involved in this because where the draft is kicking in Monday, it's kind of like, it's almost like a lot of these are blow-off matches, or even just the sake of just putting matches on a card, if I'm honest, just to get through this weekend and just start afresh come Monday. But
I know what.
Sorry, just say if you mean excited, I'd probably say a 6. I mean, not don't get me wrong, there's still decent wrestlers on there. It still should be a good show.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. I mean, to be honest, not to quote MJF, but I feel a bit mid going into this one when you look at the matches. Like, there is 3 or 4 matches I'm looking forward to still. But like you said, this is kind of going to be a reset after this show. I think a lot of matches, a lot of feuds will be concluding this Saturday. And of course, there are some matches on this show that are not really feuds. They've just been thrown together. But still, it's going to be fun to discuss it. I think I'm more excited about the idea of this being in Puerto Rico. Like I say, a very passionate fan base. You go back to the old days of Carlos Colon, Ala the Butcher. You know, it's just... for me, I feel that it's going to be a very passionate crowd, a very exciting time to see. We've seen like with the likes of when they go to the UK, obviously the clips that went in Paris going viral as well. International brand is what WWE is right now, and of course to do Puerto Rico, I think is going to be something quite special. But before we get started and before we give our what match we're most looking forward to, we're going to just quickly go into the chat. We've got Jacoby Peter in house with fire emojis. We've got Ghost Spider who says he's ready, which was good to see. Asking it before we went live. Eric Douglas, and not wasting any time, a big Damian Priest fan saying, let's go, Priest. And of course, we've got Ghost Spider asking how we're both doing. I'm doing very well. And Steve, you doing well?
Yeah, good. A bit of a long day, but I'm good.
Absolutely, indeed, there. And Ghost Spider early in there with a prediction, a new United States champion in Bobby Lashley. Of course, Eric also saying, surprised neither tag titles are being defended. I did wonder if there'd be a last-minute addition to this show with Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez defending against Bayley and Dakota Kai. That hasn't happened as of yet. Be interested to see if we'll get a last-minute kickoff match. We'll have to wait and see. But either way, it'll be fun to see. Obviously, the tag team title match was done on SmackDown. It's the 6-man tag team match. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens and Matt Riddle going against the Usos and Solo Sikoa of the Bloodline. Eric Fries is in the house of our local establishment. And of course, I hope Ed feels that this is a local establishment for him as well. Welcome to the stream and hope you are doing well, my friend. He says, E-Chat NXSteve, you are not super hyped for Seth Rollins versus the Giant Omos. Where are Omos Sapiens at? NXSteve, how are you feeling about this match? Because this is obviously one of the matches that has no build at all.
It's going to be one of them ones where it's either going to do really, really well or it's going to just be an absolute mess and an absolute nightmare. But I don't know what the plan is going forward. I honestly don't know of Omos because we'll get into it when we talk about the match, but I don't know what his future is, and it's really surprising.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be interesting to talk about that match. That'll be match 4 on the stream here today. We'll be discussing. Raymond in House as well says, my big bad bunny fan. Absolutely. Good to see you in the stream, Raymond. Thank you for checking this out. And Bad Bunny will be the first match we'll be talking about in a couple of minutes' time. But before we do get started, as always, NXSteve, I have to ask, which match are you most looking forward to on this show?
That's the problem. There is a lot on there. I'm probably going to say this, the 6-man tag match, just because I think it's probably the one with the most story going into it, and I expect there's a lot coming out of the show that will play into effect with the result of that match. So I'll probably say the tag match.
Interesting, yeah. Like you said, we've got the narrative with the Usos and the Bloodline. Obviously, Solo Sikoa there as well. See, I can understand why that's your pick there for me. There are two free matches that I'm really excited about on this show. Obviously, the San Juan street fight. Obviously, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest is up there for me purely because I think the crowd is going to be red hot for this. I think there's certainly going to be a lot of fun elements going into it. One of the reasons I want to talk about the match first. Cody and Brock. But let's be fair, I'm not a fan of the build, but I will say that I think the match itself will be exciting when it comes to it. But the sleeper pick is going to be Bianca Belair versus Io Sky. I think that match could steal the show. I really think it could steal the show. It's one I'm really looking forward to. Ghost Spider 2003 says, it's strange Seth Freakin Rollins versus Omos is happening at Backlash with no build. You are correct. There is zero build, but certainly, hopefully, it will still deliver as a fun match on the show. But Tino's Time is in the house as well. Says, hey guys, hope you're doing well. Tino's Time all the time. Doesn't matter what time zone you are in the world, ladies and gentlemen. It is always Tino's Time. Tino, hope you're doing well, my friend, and thank you for checking out the stream. So without further ado then, I think we should get straight into it. Let's go with our first match then that we're going to talk about. And of course, like I said, it is going to be that San Juan street fight. That's right. Bad Bunny, the musical artist, of course, Puerto Rican as well, going against Damian Priest. Now, of course, a fun little note about this is the fact that obviously Damian has heritage for Puerto Rico as well. But they were tag team partners at WrestleMania 37. Of course, Bad Bunny and Priest were homies there. Of course, now they come into the situation now with WrestleMania kicking in. Bad Bunny was the reason that I suppose Rey Mysterio beat Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania in the end, and Damian Priest didn't take too kindly to that. The next night on Raw, of course, Bad Bunny hitting Dominic Mysterio again, getting involved in Judgment Day business, and for his trouble, Damian Priest put Bad Bunny through a table. Very impressive spot on what was otherwise a very dull after WrestleMania Raw. But at the same time, we've seen it build since then. Damian Priest coming back, using a kendo stick to fend off Damian Priest. And of course, he made the challenge there for a San Juan street fight for this show. For me personally, the attraction element does actually go really well in this match for me. Like I say, Bad Bunny was meant to be the host of this show. He's now wrestling on this show. You know, the fan base that are going to be there are going to be really hyped for this. And of course, like I say, it could be just one of those moments that feels magic. It's going to get the outside attention of, say, I don't know, maybe the music industry, maybe sort of all different elements of life that would not normally check into WWE. And last note I'll make, this is WrestleMania for Damian Priest. What an opportunity and big spot given as well. But NXSteve, what are your thoughts of this match that's been put together?
I was just about to say that this is Damian Priest's WrestleMania match, to be fair. But yeah, I imagine that crowd's going to be super hot, just kind of like almost how Drew was in Cardiff. It'll be the same kind of passion, same kind of heat behind it. It's one of those things where it's a celebrity match, and it's like, now that we've kind of seen Logan Paul do what he can do, it's kind of like he's really set the bar. Like, I'm not expecting Bad Bunny to do crazy stuff. I've seen him do like a Panama Sunrise, and do you know what I mean? And Canadian Destroyers. And it's just like, I'm sure it'll be as entertaining as anything. It's just like, it's a celebrity match at the end of the day. I'm expecting it to go one way, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I have an obvious prediction for this one of where I think it's going to go, but I think that the street fight does add a nice element to this match. You mentioned there, obviously, saying like Logan Paul set a really high bar. Of course, when you put weapons involved in this match, it does almost kind of make you feel like, well, we've got different things we can do. Obviously, like you said there, the Canadian Destroyer has been a very impressive spot that Bad Bunny's been able to do. Excuse me, he's done high cross bodies as well, previously jumping off the top turnbuckle. So I expect that Bad Bunny will put in a decent performance here. But one thing's for sure, also with this added element of the street fight, I do expect that this one will have its added shenanigans. I can't for the life of me imagine that the rest of Judgment Day will not get involved. I imagine Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor will be present. And of course, the other group, the LWO, before they all go to different brands and not going to be competing for a long time against one another. Perhaps the Royal Rumble probably be the next time, or Money in the Bank if they're featured in that. They should all be kept separate. So for me personally, looking at this, I expect the outside shenanigans to get involved. And I'm going to kick off with a prediction, if you don't mind. Obviously, going with the obvious one, I think the celebrity in Bad Bunny picks up the victory. I think that that's what's going to happen. And I think that, like I said, the LWO will sort of help out during this. And I think that we'll have Bad Bunny as an honorary member of the LWO at the end of this, sort of celebrating in an LWO t-shirt. Some have been saying, why is the LWO come back? Obviously, from the NWO style, it's kind of bringing that sort of marketing element of it. It's a tribute as well with Eddie Guerrero. Rey Mysterio previously was in that group against his will back in WCW, but willingly these days. They've lost a lot of matches, the LWO, which has led to a lot of the, let's say, Twitter universe questioning why we should be invested in the LWO. Well, when Bad Bunny picks up a victory here on this show and he's got an LWO t-shirt on to close this feud off, I think that will make mega merchandise sales, and I think that will just answer your question immediately. So yeah, Bad Bunny to pick up the victory and potentially to be an honorary member of the LWO.
Well, it's already the number one selling shirt on WWE.com, isn't it? The LWO t-shirt. So it's a well-timed marketing plan to bring back the LWO for this show. Hopefully it's a case of they still stick around. But yeah, I'm the same as you. Bad Bunny's going to win it. There's going to be loads of shenanigans. I mean, as much as it makes sense that Damian Priest should win this, it's going to be fan favoritism here, and it's just going to be a case of Bad Bunny just elevating the whole scenario by picking up the win.
Absolutely, I can see that. Definitely, it could definitely be. It's going to be a fun time come for Backlash, and we've got a few comments in. Most of them are unrelated to Backlash whatsoever. But what I will say is that we are going to mainly keep things Backlash on this occasion. I will bring up all the comments, but after that, we'll keep them solely Backlash related. Jack says that Damian Priest is his pick for this match. Ray said, "If someone is coming, I'm going to destroy them." So he believes that JD McDonagh will help Damian Priest and someone will come in here. Of course, there has been the idea of JD McDonagh actually being a part of Judgment Day. It's been mentioned a few people in the last 24 hours. So, and obviously we said about the connection with Finn Balor training JD McDonagh. Is that something we could see one day? Is there something that could actually happen this Saturday?
I mean, if it works, but then I'm still more invested in a JD McDonagh Finn Balor rivalry, which will obviously play back into their history. So I'd like to see him be having a feud with the members of Judgment Day rather than anything. But then it's again the whole heel face dynamic they do. So yeah, it depends on how they do it. Like I said, well, we always say, as long as if it's done creatively well, then sure, I'm up for anything.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's the way. If it's done tastefully, it will be great. But let's remember, everybody, if Bad Bunny doesn't win this match, God, can you imagine the heat that's going to be with this crowd? I think that WWE will probably not risk it, in my personal opinion. But Jack, if your prediction comes true, my friend, I tell you what, we'll be celebrating for you. Ed Fry is bringing the facts in for us as well. Says Priest hasn't lost in singles since October the 9th, if I remember correctly, from a Raw. Wow, if it's been that long. But
that's
impressive.
that means,
that's very impressive. That shows how good Judgment Day has been booked in the last 6 months, and obviously a member that wasn't even involved at WrestleMania. This is his WrestleMania moment. It just goes to show how good he's done in singles competition. Let's go through some of the other comments then we got very, very quickly then that have come through. Ghost Spider saying, heard a rumor now, Roman Reigns is now advertised for Money in the Bank. Interesting if that is the case. Let us know, Ghost Spider, where the source is for that one. But interesting if he would be. I imagine the UK crowd would be very happy about it. Jack mentioning, did we hear Eddie Dennis, very easy for me to say, is back as a producer in NXT. No, didn't have a clue about it, but
yeah, I see that today. Yeah, I see it today. It's good because he'd retired, so I think it's just the next stage in his career.
Absolutely, and Shay Samuels is backstage in the Performance Center, who is also a former NXT UK member. So it feels like more of the NXT UK guys could be getting involved at some point soon. Also, we got one AEW comment. It's the only AEW comment we're going to bring up in the stream. NXTsteve is mad because Powerhouse Hobbs' team with QT Marshall and Jeff Jarrett beat Dax Hardwood rather than Dash Hardwood. I don't think NXTsteve is that mad, if I'm being brutally honest, looking at that there. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Yeah. Ghost Spider 2003. Spoiler alert. Zero News reports. Be tricky with Zero News. Roman Reigns versus Edge Styles is being planned as the next Roman feud. And Seth versus heel Drew being planned for the World Heavyweight Championship. Zero News record is not amazing, but if it is the case, then fair play to that. But I'll take it with a pinch of salt. But certainly can see both of those feuds happening at some point in the future. But that's our picks anyway. So yeah, Bad Bunny for me, and yes, Bad Bunny for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Bad Bunny. It's a fan service project. That one is just going to get the crowd really gassed up.
Absolutely. So there you go. Puerto Rico is going to go crazy for this one, and they may get quite invested with the next match we're going to talk about as well. which is the SmackDown Women's Championship. Rhea Ripley defending against Zelina Vega. Of course, Zelina Vega, the only member or the only female member of the WWE roster with Puerto Rican heritage in her. So, yeah, she's getting the title opportunity here. She wanted to perform on this show. She wanted to challenge Rhea Ripley. We've got the LWO feuding with the Judgment Day, so it made sense putting it all together. But then Zelina was reminded, you sure you want this? Rhea Ripley's on a different level right now. You've not won a match for a long time. I think the record she had was 2021, like late December, was her last singles win until SmackDown last week over Sonya Deville. But of course, she did win with a roll-up. It wasn't the most convincing fashion, but I like that they tried to build her up in this, make her seem like she is a threat in some way. Even when Rhea Ripley got involved in the ring, Zelina still managed to come away on top, even though she did have to retreat afterwards. Rey Mysterio reminding her it's not about that sort of size of the person in the fight, it's the heart that someone has, and Rey is someone who's been able to do the underdog story very, very well. Zelina Vega definitely going to carry that into this match. No doubt the crowd will be behind her, but is it going to be enough? Or is Rhea Ripley going to still walk away as SmackDown Women's Champion?
This for me is this is your yin and yang essentially with the last match. It's going to be a case of unfortunately not for the local town hero, because one, it's WWE and they never book the local hero to win. It's just a fact. Two, you've had Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny's going to win, so again, like I said, it's going to balance it out. And yeah, I'm going to give my prediction now. Zelina, unfortunately, will be walking away empty-handed this weekend.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. Obviously, if you're from the hometown and you've won Grammys, you're probably going to pick up the victory. If you haven't, you're probably going to lose. So, yeah, I'm going to stay the same with you. Obviously, it's still a bit weird. Rhea Ripley is a Raw drafted superstar. Zelina, of course, is a SmackDown drafted superstar. So, in a way, it would have been nice to see the belt go back to SmackDown. It's not going to happen. As Mex says here, love Zelina, but she has no chance in hell. And you know what, Mex? Thank you for checking out the stream, by the way. Hope you're doing well, my friend. But I completely agree. Rhea Ripley is retaining. We'll move on then, in the meantime, to what will be match 3 on the show. We'll talk about one women's championship. So let's talk about another. Let's talk about the Raw Women's Championship. 2 SmackDown superstars after this show. Bianca Belair versus Io Sky. Now, of course, this is kind of based around the fact of damage control, really, because Bayley was supposed to get the number 1 contenders match for the opportunity to get this match. And of course, Io Sky is saying, well, look, you're holding us back. You failed. It's time for one of us to get that chance. Io Sky was put in the triple threat match, number 1 contenders match. She picked up the victory. She got this opportunity. And like I said at the start of this stream, I think as a sleeper pick, this potentially could be match of the night here. I'm really looking forward to it. 2 fantastic performers here. I think they're going to tear it down here in San Juan.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of history with these. I believe there's a lot of history. I'm trying to think. I'm sure they've met each other in NXT days when Io was NXT Women's Champion. I'm sure. I'm getting flashbacks of it. I was just sitting there trying to think if I can remember it. But this is going to be Io Sky's opportunity to make a name for herself, to say that she can hang with the top of the card. She can be a future main eventer, a future women's champion. So, yeah, I'm really expecting a lot from Io Sky in this one this weekend.
Yeah, I think that she's going to have a stand-up performance. I think it's going to be, I mean, to give a prediction nice and early, I think it's going to be close but no cigar. I think they're going to make a sort of trying to have a breakout moment on this show, but I don't see her walking away with a championship. If any one of the women's champions is going to lose their championship, I expect it would be Bianca Belair of the cause of Rhea Ripley, but I don't think they're going to do that this soon. I think they're going to delay things until we have the awkward championship trade on a Raw or a SmackDown in the very near future, because of the fact that WWE loves to do that. We've traded the SmackDown Women's Champion to Raw. We've traded, well, Rhea was already on Raw at that occasion, but of course, Bianca Belair, the Raw Women's Champion, traded the SmackDown. We talked about this in depth yesterday. It is time to change the name of the championships, ladies and gentlemen. We can't keep seeing the trade-off. I'm sure the stare-down between Bianca and Rhea will be good. It's a long-term direction, but it does ruin the end of championship reigns, especially when Bianca is about to become the longest reigning Raw Women's Champion ever. It's not the best way to do it, in my opinion. But nonetheless, like I say, I think Bianca Belair does retain the Raw Women's Championship here. But NXTsteve, anything to add?
No, I was just, there is a load of stuff from their NXT days, but interestingly enough, since Io's been on the main roster, I think she's only scored 2 wins out of every match that they've had against each other. One was Cardiff, and the other one was on a Raw in a tag team match. So singles competition, since she's been called up, not very good for Io Sky, and I think that will continue this weekend.
Absolutely, like we say, it can also play into the idea of the damage control breakup that I expect to happen at some point. If doesn't get the job done, Bailey can almost say, "Well, look, now I've actually won here. I'm getting us a tag team title opportunity. Were you
Yeah.
the letdown of the team?" It plays into the storyline with damage control quite nicely. So I think that will continue coming out of this. But yeah, it will be interesting nonetheless. But we'll go into the comments in the meantime. Noob and Co saying, "Thank you, Noob, by the way. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for checking out the stream. I believe Bianca is going to retain, and after the match, Asuka might return to bring chaos." Now, of course, these two were WrestleMania opponents this year. They've both been drafted from Raw to SmackDown. Is there a chance that Asuka could return on this show, or would you save it for the weekly television?
I think it's going to be okay because it's a pay-per-view. I would think it's going to wait for the weekly show. I would imagine it just makes a little bit more sense. It's not very normal for WWE to do returns on pay-per-views. Like, we get them on the odd occasion, but I don't think this will be one of them.
No, I don't think it'll be one of them either, but I do like the idea of where we're building something for the next show. I know that we saw this match just recently, but I mean, of course, if Oscar was to come in, it does seem like someone looking to get their rematch. Could be full on heel rather than sort of playing that tweener, I don't know, role that was having building into WrestleMania. Having a real evil Oscar could be a good way to go. But we'll have to wait and see if something like that would go down, Noob. As we say, we're going to say that Bianca just retains, and then they go to one of those adverts that you see where it's kind of building up a superstar that's not on the show, probably. But we'll have to wait and see what will go down.
I was just going to say, I think the more important build at the minute is if they are going to split them, that's what they need to work on. That needs to be sort of the main focus with those three.
I would agree with you on that as well at that particular moment. But Ghost Spider reckons that Rhea Ripley will destroy Zelina Vega. And Alyssa joining the stream as well. Alyssa, I hope you're doing well. I'm very mad, Alyssa, today. Alyssa, it's okay. People have said that Cody Rhodes people have said that Robert's fan base is so toxic. I've not entirely got what you've got said there, but if any fan base is toxic, there's a few of them on the wrestling Twitter. Just ignore them. It doesn't matter. It's not important. What you like is what you like. Don't worry about what others don't like. Honestly, I know you're a big Cody fan, and Cody will be the main event of this stream, so have something you've got to look forward to later on. But we'll move on to match 4. In the meantime, then, like I say, anyone feel free to drop in with your comments as well, with your predictions. Join in. We'll give you a shout out with Backlash. And also, if you enjoyed the video, then please do hit the like button. Really helps this channel a long way also. But as we say, match 4 on the stream is Seth Freakin Rollins taking on the Nigerian giant Omos. Now, let's be fair, there is absolutely zero build for this match. There is nothing really to discuss. This was announced on a random SmackDown. But what I will say is, and if you go back and check my Backlash match card predicted video at the start of the build towards this show, I discussed as the last match Seth Freakin Rollins versus Omos. And the reasoning for it is because we need to get both of them on the show. It's in San Juan, Puerto Rico. It's an attraction match, almost as an attraction superstar used for these type of shows. Seth Rollins is not someone who is, I know, NXSteve, bear with me. And at the same time, Seth freaking Rollins is a guy that they're going to want to get on this show as well. He didn't really have a main program going on after WrestleMania, after concluding with Logan Paul. But the way this has been put together, well, I mean, I didn't really have a storyline, but I'm pretty sure we could have come up better than nothing. What's your thoughts with Seth freaking Rollins versus Omos? WWE treats him as the attraction, almost. So what's your take?
I get what you're saying. It's just, yeah, it's like when you say it out loud, it just is he really? Is he? But yeah, no. It's just because Vince McMahon loves Omos. And don't get me wrong, when Omos was, I can't remember who he was facing, but when he was talking smack in the ring, I was well impressed, and I was like, "Where's this guy been the whole time?" It's like all right, he hasn't got great mic skills, but let him do that stuff every time he's in a match because it was really entertaining. And I was like, "Where's this guy been for the last 3 years? Where was this guy? Why wasn't he doing this on Raw Underground and stuff like that?" But it is what it is. It's just one of their matches where Vince is just like, "Oh, Omos. I love Omos. Let's get him on the show. Oh, Omos." Yeah, so it's just one of the things. But yep, Seth, or like you said, Seth is the attraction here, let's be honest. But I don't know what they're planning on doing with Omos because what I think will happen it doesn't bode well for him, unfortunately.
Well, he is a free agent coming out of the WWE draft, is our Omos. He can be on any show at any time. And he feels like the sort of wrestler to me, and that is used as I said, in the attraction role. He is not on every show. He will be used on Raw when he's building up for what's a WrestleMania or a Royal Rumble or this show here in Puerto Rico. He's used for those. Then he'll be disappearing for a couple of months. Between Crown Jewel and the Royal Rumble, we barely saw him. So they're probably thinking, well, we've got so many people we want him to face. Let's put him where it's appropriate, and that's why we're going to do what we're going to do as this free agent. But I get where you're coming from. Seth is probably the attraction, and let's be honest here. I'm going to stick my neck out here. I think this will be Omos's best match to date in WWE.
It most likely will be. But the fact that you turn around and say they're going to use Omos as an attraction, let's be honest. Since Vince McMahon's come back, that guy's been on every show every week. There guy ain't taking a break for nothing. He's going to be on Raw on Monday, and then he's going to be on SmackDown on Friday. And I really don't know what they're planning on doing with that guy. But yeah, Seth will drag him to probably his best match. Not that he's a big guy and he just has big guy matches, so it's not that bad. It's not my kettle of fish, if you know what I mean. It's not what I got paid to watch, essentially. But I'm going to watch Seth Rollins, so I imagine, like you said, it will be his best match to date.
Absolutely. Just quickly, Ed Fries does say that, Steve, this is all your fault. And in the words of Gene Snitsky, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. If Vince is watching, though, then I suppose that's kind of an honor that he's watching the channel, but I don't think it's my fault. But at the same time, anyway, we're going into this then. We start to get towards a prediction here. Now, I think the key coming out of this also is that Seth freaking Rollins is the guy that wants to go for the World Heavyweight Championship. He's a lot of people's favorite to do so. We've even had Ghost Spider saying early in the stream that perhaps that is the planned direction for him to be in the championship match. So let's see how it will go down. Seth, it feels like then for that reason would need the win, but is almost going to pick up the victory and be in this tournament to crown the first ever World Heavyweight Champion, and potentially could even face Seth along the way and then lose in what's a rematch on the Raw on the build to Night of Champions. There is one of two ways this will go. So NXSteve, I'm going to put you on the spotlight first. Who's winning?
As much as you're absolutely right in everything you've just said, but for me, it has to be Seth that wins, because if you go by what's reported, what the fans want, you can't have Seth lose to Omos on this pay-per-view and then go on and win the World Heavyweight Championship. And then, unless Omos is going to be his first feud when he turns around and says, well, I'll beat you at Backlash. Now I want that title. I hope not. But yeah, for me, it's got to be Seth. I think if you want it to build him towards it, he's got to get some wins under his belt. And then I think beating someone like Omos then makes it more believable for him when he comes up against someone like Drew, who is also bigger than Seth, but not as big as Omos.
Yeah, I hear you exactly. And I think exactly the same. I think Seth freaking Rollins is going to win this match. It's all about getting that momentum. If he's going to go in, he's going to be the guy that's meant to be carrying Monday night, or one of the guys that's going to be carrying Monday night. I think that he needs to win this match. Omos, he can lose. It doesn't hurt him. It's only going to hurt Omos when he starts losing to lower card guys. Seth freaking Rollins is not that guy. He's someone who's top of the card, so I think he's going to be perfectly fine. Let's go into the comments then. Nubico saying Seth Rollins is a must win. Also saying that this match just screams Vince McMahon, written all over it, because Vince loves his giants, including Braun Strowman. Could rewind that back at some point on Raw. Alyssa's saying, hope Cody Rhodes wins. He needs to win. People called him overhyped. People said he's nothing special, and so sick of Roman Reigns fans. Well, we've got some Roman Reigns fans here, but I'm also a Cody Rhodes fan as well. So less of the hate on the fans. Let's keep it to the wrestling. But what I will say is that Cody, does he need to win? We're going to talk about it in the main event of this stream. There we go. Teasing you, holding you in. Ghost Spider also saying, imagine Drew McIntyre returns to Backlash and turns heel to attack Seth Rollins. That could be an interesting note that they could do if they wanted to do that. I think that they'll probably save the Drew McIntyre heel turn until he's probably going for the championship, or if he doesn't win that championship. I think that'd be the best way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's probably the safest bet. But then I'd like to also see a finish to this whole Gunter Drew McIntyre IC title scene that now they're both on Raw. So I'd like to see that story finish as well somewhere along the line, because it was still all up in the air after that triple threat that they had.
Absolutely. You could do Gunter versus Drew at Night of Champions. You could do perhaps Cody versus Seth one more time, and then you can build it on from there.
There's no reason why Gunther can't be involved in the process of building to that match at Night of Champions. Why can't Gunther be a competitor for it just because he's the IC champion? They shouldn't exclude him from it.
Absolutely, indeed, completely, 100% agree. West Coast Podcast in house says, "What's up, Steve? We're doing very well, thank you very much. Hope you are keeping well, also, and clearly we are the ones. We'll be talking about the Usos very, very shortly. But at the same time, we've got one match we're going to talk about in between." For the United States Championship, it is Austin Theory defending against Bronson Reed and the almighty Bobby Lashley. And I tell you what, the draft has certainly made this interesting because, well, Austin Theory drafted from Raw to SmackDown, so the US title now is SmackDown property. Bobby Lashley has been traded to SmackDown. And, well, Bronson Reed is going to be staying on Raw. The feud, really, with this is Bronson Reed and Bobby Lashley. That's kind of really where this started, with them having the double count out, the beatdowns afterwards. And clearly, one match we had with Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory, where I think Bobby Lashley won to win the US title back, Bronson Reed got involved, and that's what led to this triple threat match. I will say nice and early, Bronson Reed is not going to be the person to win the championship. I think he's going to be the person to take a fall here, but I do think it's great to see him on a premium live event again. This is the second time he's on a premium live event in 2023, and of course, he's the second time he's going for the United States Championship on a premium live event as well. The previous time being at the Elimination Chamber. NXSteve, what's your thoughts with this triple threat match, and how do you see it going?
It's a very interesting dynamic. I mean, I can't see Bronson Reed. Well, it's like maybe 3% botch that Bronson Reed will walk out with this championship, but it's all about who of the other two is going to walk out of it. Because with Roman not being around, whoever has that championship is essentially top champion on SmackDown. So it makes more sense that Bobby will win because then Bobby is top face without having Roman around. But then again, Austin Theory's not a bad guy to have. It's like, don't get me wrong, not everyone loves him, but it just depends on the whole dynamic and what they want to do going forward and who's going to be the week on week like appearing champ because of Roman not being there.
And that's the key right now. We haven't got Roman at this particular stage. So the person that is going to be the United States champion effectively is going to be the top champion of that brand when Roman's not around. He's going to be the one carrying it, probably doing main events, probably doing a lot of different things for the SmackDown brand. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to walk out as champion. Now, my initial thoughts, my prediction has changed during the day. Austin Theory was my prediction to win this match. In fact, I got involved on the A to the K polls that I usually do every month, and I predicted Austin Theory. It's changed. I think it makes sense to conclude Bronson Reed and Bobby Lashley because that's the feud that was going into this. You can continue Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory after this. I know we've seen it before. I know we don't necessarily need to see it again, but I've got a funny feeling that Bobby Lashley is going to beat Bronson Reed, and that means that Theory was not involved in the decision. We have to remember back to the Survivor Series where Theory was talking about on Raw that he's been involved in this triple threat scenario before, said he won before. I think that could be a little curse there as well. Just the fact that he kind of reminded us that Bobby was in the match. He said Seth was in the match, almost implied it was a harder match last time. And I think that's going to be his downfall this time. I think he's a bit too confident going to this match after his win against John Cena at WrestleMania. And I think that it'll be his job to try and win the championship back come Night of Champions.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a case of if Bobby wins, fine, he's top champ. But then what does Austin Theory do going forward? Because with look at SmackDown, they've currently at the minute got a women's championship and the United States Championship. They don't have no tag titles. Roman's not around. Do you know what I mean? You've got a lot of guys there that are doing that. They're all competing for one championship. And if you put Bobby on there, I can't, off the top of my head, think of a big top heel on that show that can go against Bobby. And I think this is the reason why I'm going to go with Austin retaining, because I think there's more faces on that show going forward. And I think that the whole Bronson Reed Bobby Lashley dynamic will play into Theory retaining, and then Theory's got something to drive as a narrative come forward on Friday where he can turn around and go, look, I've beaten Bobby, I've beaten Bronson. We'll probably get a rematch between the two of them because it'll probably be a case of, like you said, Bronson probably picks up the pin, and then it'll be a case of, come Friday, you never pinned me, I want a rematch one-on-one. And we might see a title change on Friday, for an example, but I really think Austin will walk away with it this Saturday.
I can definitely see the argument for that completely. And for me, I don't really. I'm an Austin Theory fan. I think that he's definitely all the tools to be a top guy for many, many years to come. But at the same time, I just feel to myself that I don't have any title changes happening on this show anywhere else. So I kind of feel WWE usually likes to pull one, and I feel that this could be the one they may do. Like you said, Theory can win it back at a later date when they want to get Bobby Lashley into the next stage. Maybe Theory, if he drops the championship, maybe he's going for Money in the Bank for a second year in a row. Probably wouldn't, in fact, be to a lot of people's taste, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they was to see it go down. But one thing's for sure, like we say, Bronson Reed going to eat that pin. But I'm going to go Bobby Lashley, and NXSteve is going for Austin Theory to retain. Let's go and see what the comments have to say. West Coast Podcast getting involved here, saying Bronson is going to cost Bobby again, and Theory will steal the win. So agreeing with you, NXSteve. And of course, he goes on to say, when Bobby loses again, the Hurt Business will finally reunite. Now you have a proper feud between them and the Bloodline. And you know what? I would not be against that at all.
Yeah, no. How long have we been screaming for the Hurt Business to be reunited? So yeah, I as much as I would love to see it, it's just it's Vince trying to get him to just willingly put these 3 or 4 back together. Like, you don't really think you need MVP. I think the 3 still works with just Cedric, Shelton, and Bobby. So that would still work for me. So it's just more hoping and praying that they do it than anything.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it is hope and pray, but a lot of them are free agents, so they have the ability to be on SmackDown. And of course, SmackDown is looking like stable, heavy shows. So I mean, if they want to throw the Hurt Business in there as well, one more stable to the party doesn't seem to hurt, in my opinion. It almost feels like they're building to trios champions, but yeah, don't quote me on that.
I was just thinking to say a second ago when you turned around and said you're expecting one title to change hands. Let me just remind you, I attended 60,000 people clash at the castle. Not one title changed hands. All right, so it's possible. Austin Theory can win it. God damn it.
He can do it. I have a feeling I know which championship you wanted to change hands that night as well. But at the same time, Theory is retaining the US title according to Noob. Ghost Spider here saying that if Austin Theory loses the United States Championship, then he'll be lost in the shuffle. Big claim there. I don't think he would be. I think there's enough views to take him to the next level. He could be, rather than the mid-card guy, he could be the upper mid-card guy. I think there's still stuff they could do with him afterwards. I mean, there's a suggestion of Theory versus Waller after this pay-per-view. I mean, for me, it's heel versus heel, but certainly 2 young guns, 2 great talkers as well. One great talker in Waller. Theory's certainly working his way into being a decent talker. I just think for me, they have a plan with Theory. They've not been able to execute it. They said something with John Cena with going to the WrestleMania feud. What next after winning that? They need to start delivering on what that's going to be. Is it being United States champion for the long term, one of the best US champions of all time, or is it doing something to take him to the next level?
The only thing I can think of is that, as much as I cringingly don't want to say it, maybe Money in the Bank again. Like, maybe reset it and redo it all over again and not have that trash cash in that he originally did and failed with. So that's a possibility. It's just like I said, SmackDown being short of like on-screen champions, I don't know what they could do. But Fury and Waller as a tag team is a great shout. I'd love to see them two go together. Like, I think those two could work. They're 2 great athletic guys. They could almost be like egotistical against each other. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like how, oh, now my brain's going to play tricks on me now. I can't remember now. There was a team back in the 90s. It was kind of like a love-hate relationship that they put them together. It happened so many times, but I just can't remember from the top of my head.
No, I'm trying to figure now. It was scrambling it along. But early, mid, late 90s?
No, do you know what? It's not even 90s, it's 2000s. It's like Jericho and someone or whoever. Do you know what I mean? It's just like two people that were enemies that they just put together and end up going on to be tag champs kind of thing.
Probably He Who Should Not Be Named probably is the one you're referring to there with Jericho. They held the tag titles at one point. Of course,
do you know what? Yeah, it probably is that one. I apologise.
That's all right, not a problem at all. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, when you look at this also, just a comment that comes in here, Ghost Spider saying LA Knight should turn face. Yeah, I totally agree. He should turn face. The only thing I would say, though, at the moment, if Bobby Lashley is to win this championship, LA Knight is still a heel. You've got Theory, who's a heel. You've got Waller, who's a heel. And all of them are interesting for you can do until you want to build Lashley versus Roman. So I'm not going to rule it out. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to rule it out at this point. There's respect as well for the AJ Styles cutout in the background for you, NXSteve, by the way.
Oh, for the artwork that I've
Absolutely,
not
yeah.
stolen off of Google.
It's very well put together. West Coast Podcast also saying, low key, bro, I'd love for Zelina to win and maybe she could steal it, but Rhea is about to smash her. She's the number one pick and the heat in Puerto Rico is going to be insane. Absolutely, indeed. There, all that's missing is Dominic Mysterio on a microphone. That's simply all that is missing to get that heat to go even more nuclear at this point. And one more comment from.
Fortunately, Rhea's going to fold her up like a pretzel. That's the only problem with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Orton and Edge did something similar as well. That's right, indeed. They did. What was their name? Was it was Rated RKO? Yeah, absolutely. Great team back in the day. That was a fun one there. I'm just looking through. I believe I've gone through every comment we have, which I have indeed, which means we should hopefully be able to go to our following match. And that means we will be talking about a 6-man tag team match that'll be coming up for us in a couple of seconds' time. Just got to get the graphic ready. And it is Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Matt Riddle going against the Usos and Solo Sikoa of the Bloodline. Now, obviously, just to quickly say, Matt Riddle has returned to WWE, originally to attack The Miz, but then they quickly dropped that and they went straight with who he took him out to begin with, which was Solo Sikoa on SmackDown. When we go to the Tag Team Championship feud, the main event of Night 1 of WrestleMania, KO and Sami Zayn and the Usos, fantastic match, brilliant story, loved it to bits, but let's be honest, since WrestleMania, it's gone on autopilot. This is what on GM mode on WWE 2K games would explain is on cooldown. That's pretty much where we're at the minute. It's on cooldown. This one is not as hot as it was as a feud. I do think the biggest match they could and perhaps should have done for this show was the tag team title rematch. But, well, we've got the 6-man tag team match instead, which is usually what you get on the random episodes of TV. I'm guessing it's to get more guys on the show here. Good for Matt Riddle. I guess he's coming back in a prominent position. As I know, NXSteve, you and I have been talking off air, not the biggest fans of Riddle. But what is an interesting nugget from this is that the Usos have continually let Roman Reigns down. And of course, Solo has been teased to be the one to pull the trigger on the Usos as well. Let's not forget that when it comes to the draft, Roman had the bloodline of himself, Solo, and Paul Heyman drafted on one night, and the Usos drafted on the other night. Why were the bloodline not all drafted together? Is the wise man something to do with this? It's interesting to see. There's definitely friction amongst that bloodline, and they are probably the interesting trio going into this match. Are they going to be completely on the same page? Is there something that's going to cause a problem if they lose this match? Is Solo going to pull the trigger on this night? Let's break it down. What's going to happen with the 6-man tag team match?
Like you said, it's all about the Usos in this one. Whether they're going to lose another match and let down the bloodline once again, could Saturday night be the night that Solo pulls that trigger? It's a case of, I don't know, because I don't know what the narrative is going forward. Because Roman is not on TV weekly, what is it? It's just supposed to be a case of Solo beating him up by himself or something. I honestly don't know. I mean, I'm not expecting. I'm pretty sure Roman's not going to be on this show. And it's a case of then what do you do then? Like if Solo can't essentially, it doesn't make sense to keep having the Usos be buried by Solo because they just come off as your longest reigning tag team champions. So it's a case of who knows with this one. But I do not fare in favor of the Usos with this one just because of their narrative and how they've recently been getting their results.
Yeah, I mean, I can see exactly where you're coming from. Of course, you've got the new tag team champions, Sami, KO. Even though Sami seems to be still getting involved with Uso business, still trying to get in ahead of the Usos. The Usos are still trying to get in ahead of Sami Zayn. It's nice that after this, they're going to be on separate shows. That storyline has concluded. I think that this needs to be the final chapter. It needs to conclude in one way. It's a good place that where you could argue that Bloodline get their win back and then all of a sudden they kind of keep things going delayed to another day. But at the same time, Sami and KO, it's the feel-good story, isn't it? And of course, with Matt Riddle being a part of that team as well there, I do feel that this 6-man tag is going to be a decent match. I think that, like you said, that the questions are in if the Usos let them down again. And I think I'm going to agree with your prediction.
And when was this match actually made? Was it before or after Friday?
It was made before. It was made, I want to say the week before the draft on the Raw. That's what.
Okay, because the only reason I ask is because obviously Kevin may look like he slightly picked up a knee or an ankle injury. This is the only reason why I could think they've put Riddle in this instead of having a tag team title match. But Vince pushing Riddle to the sky apparently. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Usos losing and Kevin and Sami Kevin, Sami, and Riddle winning. It's just a case of that. It almost feels like you said, it's really deflated with those two at the minute and what they're going to do going forward. I mean, don't get me wrong, that Raw Tag Team division is stacked, so they've got loads of opportunities going forward. But this is really sort of one and done now. They should have had like one rematch after Mania. This should have been the one rematch for the tag team titles. But it's been the same story every week since Mania, unfortunately.
Absolutely, yes. Well, let's go into the comments anyway. Then we've had our take on this, and we've got, if the Bloodline lose, I can see Solo Sikoa snaps and attacks the Usos. So Ghost Spider can see the trigger happening on this show. I think it would be delayed on this particular moment. I don't see it happening there and then, but we'll have to wait and see if it would. Like I say, anything is possible. West Coast Podcast, the Bloodline will win. Solo is on the team. I've got the Usos to lose, but Solo saves the day for the Bloodline and earns himself even more favor with Roman. That makes a lot of sense, that.
Yeah, but then it's your tag team champions again on the other side. So unless Riddle's going to take the pin, which I highly doubt it, because do you know what I mean? He's one of Vince's boys at the minute. So it's a case of who's going to eat that pin. You can't have Sami take that pin, man. He's literally just beaten these two for the tag team championships. I mean, yeah, I suppose if Solo's to pin him, sure, but I can see where West Coast Pop's coming from. But for me, I think it's got to be the tag champs winning.
I'm going to go for the tag champs winning like yourself as well, but I do feel that West Coast Podcast, you give me something to think about, something to digest there, I will say. Nubi Coast says, I get the feeling that Roman Reigns is going to banish the Usos, starting with Jey Uso, who is pretty much the weak link in the bloodline. It feels like that he's certainly the hothead at this point, definitely he's caused the most issues in recent months, so I can see why Noob is seeing that. Definitely, it does feel like that Jay is being punished at this particular moment. And Richard Robes, or Richard RJ, definitely the same person there. I will always get to the comments in the end. Please do not write you're missing your comment. I always get to them in the end. I don't like to be rushed. But let's see what we're taking with a pinch of salt today, because it says, spoiler, Bobby Lashley win the US title, the Bloodline wins, Damian Priest defeats Bad Bunny, Brock defeats Cody, and Bianca wins. Then AJ Styles turns on Bianca. I can see everything apart from that last bit there, but certainly you have a chance of everything but that last bit. Let's say I don't agree with all of those predictions, but yeah, thank you, Richard, nonetheless. Robbie Collins in house as well. Robbie, hope you're doing well. Thank you for checking out the stream. You're in just in time for the main event. New Age Wrestling in house as well. How many away are you from 2,000? It's one of Temple's subscribers. Got to say, yesterday he's recommended me to you and subscribe. Thank you, New Age Wrestling, for subscribing to the channel. Really do appreciate it. I think I'm about 40 away from 2,000 subscribers at this particular moment. The draft has been very kind in the last week or so. Definitely gone up about 50 subscribers in the last sort of few days alone. But New Age Wrestling, thank you for tuning in. Hope you're doing well. And a shout out to Temple as well. Underground Temple, great stuff on YouTube as well. And thank you for recommending. But yeah, let's go into the main event, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we've all came for, isn't it? To be honest, it is Cody Rhodes taking on Brock Lesnar. Now, of course, this stemmed from the night after WrestleMania, that Raw after Mania that's been told is one of the worst ever. Cody Rhodes couldn't get his rematch with Roman Reigns on the Raw, so instead he settled for a tag team match, Roman and Solo Sikoa. But Paul Heyman threw in that little ingredient that anyone that agreed to team with Cody Rhodes would no longer be eligible to take on Roman Reigns for the championship. Well, the person that accepted the challenge was Brock Lesnar, because, well, he already lost his opportunity at SummerSlam last year. He could no longer challenge for that championship. So in that way, it made perfect sense. We got to the main event. Before the match could start, Brock Lesnar turned on Cody Rhodes. This never happened, this match. So yeah, Roman goes off into the sunset. We've not seen him since. And of course, like we said here, Cody versus Brock Lesnar has been built off the basis of this. Now, from commentary's explanation, it's because Brock was not happy with the match placement at WrestleMania. I don't know why Brock would be upset that him versus Omos was put on earlier than the main event of the show with the championships that feature Roman Reigns when Cody won the Royal Rumble.
Hang on 1 minute. When he faced Rollins for the WWE Championship, it was a case of Brock Lesnar, he's either going on last or he's going on first so he can go home early. That was the narrative they drove years ago with that.
And he did say on that night he was going first because he wanted to get the job done there, and they weren't willing to wait. So yeah, Brock's narrative has changed. For me, I'm just going to quickly give my 2 cents on this because we've not had a proper explanation since. I think you could have done this a totally different way if you wanted an explanation. Don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed Cowboy Brock playing dress up since. I've enjoyed that sort of almost way he's been dressed like The Undertaker in a way you could say as well. I've enjoyed the pull aparts, but the explanation sucks in my opinion. It should have been that Brock Lesnar would have come out and said, I believed Cody Rhodes was going to do it. Cody made me believe he was going to win those titles at WrestleMania. I was already ready to come out on Raw, to come out and say, I will be the first person going for that championship. I've not been champion for so long. Now I thought I could finally be eligible to challenge for those championships again. Cody, you let me down. Now, before I was going to just take championships for you. Now I'm going to take everything from you. I'm going to beat you like a government mule. That's exactly, in my opinion, how it should have been booked. Maybe the government mule could have been redone, but you know what I'm coming from at the same time. For me, I think that's the way they should have booked it. That's the way it should have gone down. And it would have made perfect sense going forward. For me, the other, what we've got just feels a bit subpar, but still, nonetheless, we're coming into this main event. It does give me a little bit of 2012 vibes. Of course, Brock Lesnar returning back in 2012. The night after WrestleMania, after John Cena lost the once-in-a-lifetime match with The Rock, John Cena and Cody Rhodes kind of had that same stare at the end of the WrestleMania. So it kind of has the similarities and parallels. That time, John Cena picked up the victory at a time when he felt like he was going to be in free fall if he didn't win. You could have argued John Cena probably should have lost when you look back at Extreme Rules 2012. But when you look at this with Cody here, if Cody loses, as he said, he goes to the back of the line. He's no longer a guy that can say, I can go and finish the story. People want Cody to go and finish that story. If you're going to lose to to Roman Reigns, if he needs to remain in this main event scene, he needs to beat Brock Lesnar. The question is, will he? But before we get to a prediction, NXSteve, I've talked a lot. It's time for you to have your 2 cents of what you felt of Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, I mean, it's not been the best build. It's not been the most intriguing and the most like it. Yeah, okay, it kind of makes sense from the point that they said that he's not lost. He's not done. Do you know what I mean? He's not taken any L's since he's come back to the WWE. He's not faced tough times, and it was like, yeah, but he did all that while he wasn't in WWE. He went through the turbulence. He went through the whole of New Japan. He won titles in New Japan, lost them. Then he went to AEW. Then he got like denied the opportunity to ever fight for the AEW World Championship. I mean, like, come on, W, you some sort of like 7-year history. He's not been sitting at home doing nothing. But yeah, it's my biggest worry is, well, it's not really a worry. It's just like I think this has actually got a bigger narrative going forward. I think that the result will play into the future events of that around that world heavyweight title scene. I think.
I completely agree with you. I think that the result of this determines everything. If Brock wins, Cody does have to go to the back of the line. And I think it'll be to a point of Cody would say, I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm not even worthy of going for this title. I've got to build my way back up. I could see then it being literally Seth versus Brock, for example, for the championship at Night of Champions, which of course is in Saudi Arabia. You mentioned Brock Lesnar would be in-house. You know, it's not exactly far-fetched that it could happen. On the other hand, though, Cody could win this match and Cody all of a sudden gets put in the opportunity. And I'm actually going to stick my neck out now and say if Cody does win on Saturday, I think he gets to the final of the World Heavyweight Title Tournament, gets the championship match, and this is where Cody lets himself down again. I think it's winning the big one is going to be a problem. I think they're going to delay that story until at least SummerSlam. That's my opinion on it. But what's your take on that?
I mean, if you used to have him go against Seth, and obviously with him having previously picked up 3 wins over Seth, and then Seth finally gets his win back and it's for a world title, makes a hell of a lot of sense for a narrative. But then for me, if you was to have Cody win, why not make this story a bit more worthwhile and have Brock be the reason why he doesn't get to the final of Night of Champions, so then they can rerun the Brock Cody feud again. Then you can also play that into Money in the Bank, and you can then give Cody an opportunity to go in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Do you know what I mean? Sort of drive the narrative and make it last a little bit longer, because I don't imagine Cody's going to win this World Heavyweight Championship. As far as I'm concerned, it needs to be that WWE Championship. It needs to be against Roman Reigns. It's the reason why he's come back. I think it, like, giving him not the lesser title, but not the title he's coming for, I think just doesn't do him any favors. I think it's all about that WWE title. So he needs to have something or a story that keeps him away from that scene going forward. Whether it's the case of, yes, he's going to win Money in the Bank and then cash in at Roman for Mania next year after whoever wins the Rumble and cashes in on the world champion. Or he goes and wins the Rumble again and then chooses Roman once again. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of ways they can do it coming out of this pay-per-view. It just depends on what direction they want to go with and what Brock wants to do ultimately, because if Brock don't want to do it, then Brock don't want to do it. So that's the shame with it already. It's like we could have had what we could have had was Brock versus Bray or something at WrestleMania, but Brock didn't want to do it. So
there you go, absolutely indeed. And like I said, if you carry this on to Night of Champions, for example, carry this feud over, Ghost Spider, a hell of a suggestion here. A last man standing match would be a fun way to do that, to make this go to another show. And I mean, a last man standing match would be a brilliant stipulation for it as well there. But let's go into what this show will be, because there's some great comments that have come flying in. I want to go to our comment section. What's your pick going to be? Is Cody going to get that win, or is Brock going to add more problems to Cody's world, and Brock's going to be a top contender going for the World Heavyweight Championship, perhaps?
I think Cody is going to win. I'm going to go with my direction. I think Cody will win, and I think it will play into a longer term narrative where every time he gets close to winning this championship, something or someone stops him from getting there. I think getting a win over Brock will then push a narrative for Brock to get revenge on him at some point in the future when he's close to winning that world championship to deny him.
I like that storyline narrative a lot. And to be fair, I think that you're bang on the money. I think that Cody, he's going to finish the story, but it's not going to be with the World Heavyweight Championship. It's going to be the WWE Championship. It's how they're going to get there. Is it Money in the Bank? Is it the Royal Rumble? Those are the two likely places. If Cody gets that at Money in the Bank, then I reckon SummerSlam's the destination. I think if he has to wait to the Rumble, it's WrestleMania 40. But one thing is for sure, I think Cody needs this win a lot more than Brock Lesnar does. If Cody loses this match, I think a lot of people that believed in him when he came back to the company, all the hype he had going into WrestleMania, I think a lot of that will dwindle away with the casual fan. It will be more the hardcore fan base of particularly of Cody Rhodes. That will be still in the belief. I think the casual side will probably fade away. So for me, I think that Cody needs this, and I think he'll get it.
Plus, Cody's the one that's going to be on TV every week.
Exactly.
He needs to win, because then you've got Brock to come back and do whatever he does. There's no point having Brock win and Brock disappears for 3 months. It doesn't make sense. Whereas if you have Cody win, Brock's just going to be a persistent pain in his backside going forward now. He's going to be like, no. Every time you're getting close to that world championship, I'm going to make sure you don't get anywhere near it. And then it will be a case of some point down the line or whatever, maybe, I don't know, Cody writes off Brock in an ankle injury or something. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? There needs to be something. Cody just needs this win.
Yeah, Cody needs the win, and I think he's going to get it. This will put him back into what makes it feel like he will be the contender once again. Like you say, he can go for the World Heavyweight Championship. He's there every week. Like you said, the show is built around Seth, and Cody right now. They're the two top male stars on Monday Night Raw. Obviously, when you look at the female side, it's Becky Lynch. That's probably that one right now. So, they're the three main people of Raw. Cody, obviously, you look at it going forward there. It makes sense to have him be the guy that will do it. But let's see how it will go out. But let's go into the comment section. And before we go into any predictions, it's a great just follow-on question here from Ghost Spider. Cody Rhodes should have won at WrestleMania. Do you agree with that statement?
Drew should have won at Clash. Do you know what I mean? There's so many ifs, buts, and whatnots that, it's just a case of Cody should have won at Mania, Drew should have won at Clash, Seth should have won at the Rumble last year, KO should have won at whatever one he faced. Do you know what I mean? It's just a case of it's Roman Reigns, unfortunately, and as much as we would love to see it, like I imagine at some point, Drew still owed his win in front of a crowd, for God's sake. It's just, it will just make it a lot more sweeter when it finally does happen. Because, you're right. He does have to go through hard times. It can't just be all plain sailing. Like, as much as that Hell in a Cell match with Seth did for him last year, he does need to lose some matches at some point. So it just makes sense.
I just felt, for me, when you look at WrestleMania, the way it all culminated together, I just felt like that was the right time, the right person. I felt that people believed in it. And if you look at what's happened with the narrative since, we've now have to have, people can't beat Roman Reigns. He's not around all the time. The two titles are on SmackDown. Let's bring a World Heavyweight Championship to Raw. It just feels a little bit like, okay, I feel like in my head, it's like, maybe Roman should have lost, or maybe to begin with. This should have been just for the WWE Championship.
It's,
Roman could have defended Universal on a different night. He could have retained that. He could have had 1,000 days as that champion. That just, for me, perhaps felt like the narrative that was right, because everything that's played out since has kind of pointed to the idea now that Roman retaining at WrestleMania, in my opinion, was the wrong move.
yeah, I mean, at the minute, it almost feels like that World Heavyweight Championship is a silver medal. Like, it's a case of, well, none of you can beat Roman, so here's your runner-up medal. Here's a case of you can't beat him for those titles, so we're going to give you something else to fight for. But you, in your heart of heart, you know you're not going to be the best because you've not beaten Roman, and Roman's top guy.
Absolutely. And that's why, in my opinion, Seth should be the guy to do it, because he's the only one that Roman didn't beat on the entire run. It was a DQ win for Seth Rollins.
And that way, it raises that title just a little bit more.
It helps it. In the early days, it will help it a lot. Let's go to the comments then, because West Coast Podcast here says, I love Cody, but with all the narrative around this belt being a consolation prize, he can't win. He can beat in the final, but he can't win. Exactly what we've been talking about in different ways and perspectives, the way it could go down, but completely agree with that statement. Ghost Spider 2003 wants to see Brock Lesnar versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania 40. What a great match to be. There was Survivor Series a few years ago. Definitely worth checking that one out on the network. It was or Peacock, depending on where you're from. That was an absolute banger of a match. We've got New Age Wrestling here saying Austin Theory retains. Priest beats Bad Bunny with Jordan Devlin's help. There's a few picks for that one today. Cody beats Brock with 3 Crossroads. 3 Crossroads does make a good sense of doing it. Brock, I imagine, would kick out after 1, so that's a great shout. Belair wins, hoping for a rebrand of the titles, as are we. New Age Wrestling, completely agree with you. It's needed to be done. And Ghost Spider here goes and say Cody Rhodes' next feud should be against Drew McIntyre. That would be a fun feud to see, especially with the idea of that both of them had to go away from WWE, come back, and it feels like everyone is on Cody's side right now. And the fact is that Drew probably feels like he's been hard done by. As NXSteve said, his time was in front of no fans. Cody's is in front of fans. I could see a jealous Drew McIntyre definitely starting that feud, and it would be a lot of fun when it happens.
Plus, they've both lost high profile matches for that WWE Championship. Drew lost at Clash when everyone was behind him. Cody lost at Mania when everyone was behind him. So there is a narrative there.
It is very much a narrative there. It would be an interesting one and way it would play out as well. And New Age Wrestling here, it says Drew McIntyre versus Cody is the way forward. Balor versus Rollins, the final of the World Title Tournament. Run it. Rollins versus Cody at SummerSlam for big gold. Then Cody loses it to Randy. Interesting with some of the bookings ideas there. I quite like some of it, especially the idea of Balor versus Rollins. For me, when I first heard that, I thought, it seems okay, but Balor's not been around that top title. But at the same time, it's what they did for the Universal title back in 2016. Quite a few people like the idea of running it back, and I think it would be a great match if they were to redo it once again. But we'll have to wait and see if it comes out.
I told you, WrestleMania 34, Seth versus Finn versus The Miz. It's the best match on the card. It's the first match on the card. The rest of the card sucks. Go back and watch Steve's review of the worst WrestleManias of all time, and you'll see my opinion on that, where an 11-year-old wins your tag team titles. But yes, those two can absolutely knock it out the park.
They absolutely did. And just to say, to see your rant on that video is worth a watch alone. So, I reckon people will go and watch that as well there. I hope Randy can make it back to the company soon as well. They obviously would love to see Cody versus Randy Orton. So, some fun suggestions from New Age Wrestling. But that's all the comments we've got in. So we're going to wrap things up there. So thank you everyone that's been watching. If you've enjoyed the video, then please do hit the like button, share with a friend as well. Subscribe to the channel also. Really does. Those 3 ingredients really help a channel out. And of course, you can drop a comment after the video is finished as well. I'll happily interact with you in there. So get involved. If you want to talk about anything pro wrestling, get involved in the comments after this video has gone off air. But I will say as well, for those that are watching or listening on delay, thank you all so much. You've watched the entire video, listened to the entire podcast. Really do appreciate you guys doing that. So thank you so much. And I've got to say a big shout out to our chat. You've all been awesome with your suggestions, your predictions, your comments. So thank you all for watching and for getting involved. And of course, big thank you to NXSteve. He's been here 2 nights in a row. He's been talking WWE full in depth. Yesterday was the draft. Today it is to do with Backlash. And I thank you for taking that time. It's always fun talking pro wrestling with you.
Always a pleasure, man. I'll always be here if you need me.
I appreciate that indeed. There will be a special Backlash Q&A live stream on Friday. Hopefully, I'm going to have Astrid Bizarro with me on the show. It'd be great to get her back on the channel and to talk things at pro wrestling, talk about Backlash being in Puerto Rico, and also to take all of your questions and all things WWE, Backlash, and, well, anything else you want to talk about on that particular show. 2 more comments and then we'll say our goodbyes, starting off here with New Age Wrestling, leading towards Cody winning the Rumble again and challenging Roman, and this time beats him at next year's Mania. Bold prediction. It seems like a good prediction as well there, New Age Wrestling. I like that a lot. And just to say quickly, I'm going to let Steve take on that as well. And do you reckon that's the good prediction, a safe prediction?
It's a good shout. I think with the main thing is going to be that the fallout of the bloodline has to happen. We have to have Solo split from Roman. We have to have the Usos split from Roman. So it's literally just Roman on his own.
Interesting indeed. Now, Alyssa here with her final take. Then Cody wins Money in the Bank. Seth versus Rollins, the main event of WrestleMania 40, cashing on the enemies. Hold front them said. So I'm guessing another heist of the century is the idea from Alyssa there for Cody cashing it on that main event. It would be a fun way to do it. To be fair, that would be a banging triple threat match if they wanted to do that at Backlash next year. WWE, Vince, if you're watching, if you watch my Seth versus Omos idea, book that triple threat match. I'd quite like to see that. But that's all from us today. Thank you all for watching so much. Like I say, please like, share, and subscribe. Check out the other videos that are on the channel right now. Look after yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time. Enjoy WWE Backlash 2023.